well, that was a fun hand. This hand now, another interesting hand. Let's move on. We see a UTG open and second position smooth call. So we could have some strong ranges in the mix here. And that being the case, I'm not really looking to squeeze here with this combo. If we had a late position open from an aggressive player, I would look to 3-bet this at some frequency, this combo. But the question in this instance is, do we want to call or fold? What would you do? I opted to call this time. After we call this 65.20 in there, it's 960 to call. So 960 divided by, what did I say was in there after I called? 65.20. So we only need around 15% equity here to be calling, which, as you can see here, I've just run this sim here, and we have around 22% equity. So we are getting the right price, but of course the key factor we've spoken about a lot, equity realization. Really the big one here. Are we going to be able to realize our equity often enough to make this hand profitable against two opponents from in these positions? I think it's pretty close. Pot odds here, we said 0.15 divided by the equity, 0.22. So we've got to realize our equity around 68% of the time, which is kind of pushing it. And I would probably fold against tough opponents. But against weaker opponents, this is a $44 bounty builder. Especially with this combo, I mean, we are suited. I think we can go ahead and make the call, which is what I do. And we managed to flop top pair. Go ahead and, of course, check to the stronger ranges. Although it is worth noting that we probably have more nut combinations here than our opponents. Probably have a slight nut advantage. We do block jacks, so it's only one combination of jacks, one combination of nines for quads. We can have hands like 6-9 suited, 9-7, 8-9, 9-10, Jack-9. A lot of combos that our opponents probably aren't going to have. So we do have some nut advantage here, and that being the case, I would check raise at some frequency. But obviously not with this combination, because this is a little bit too strong to be check raise semi-bluffing with. So I go ahead and check call when the UTG fires a c-bet. And we get the 10 of clubs on the turn. And here's where things get interesting. It goes check, check. I don't think our opponent on the turn here is going to check back any strong hands like jacks full, for example, or flushes. It doesn't really make much sense for them to do that, especially they are in UTG. So if they have got flushes, they're likely to be, ace-high flushes and strong flushes. I think that they would bet all of those combos because they'd want to get value from straights and 9x and smaller flushes. So there's lots of ways they can get value here with strong hands. So I think at this point, our opponent's range is very capped, and therefore that opens the door up on the river, doesn't it? Once we go ahead and check, I'm hoping to see a check back and just see ace-king or pocket sixes or something like that, but we are faced with a bet. I think this situation is pretty straightforward. We can't really call. We are pretty far down in our range. I mean, we could have queen 10 or maybe king 10 with a king of clubs or something like that would check call a c-bet on the flop. But this is pretty far down in our range, and it does have a decent blocker. So I go ahead and ask our opponent the question. That question really being, do you have pocket sevens? Because other than sevens, I don't really see any hand our opponent can have to call. I mean, even if they've got pocket eights, I mean, are they going to be able to call? I think pocket eights with the 8 of clubs would probably be a call at some frequency, but I don't think most opponents make that call. I think most opponents here will just be folding everything but full houses. And we just said that our opponent doesn't have a full house because they checked the turn. So unless they've got, one of the few combinations of sevens, that's about the only hand that can really call us. So it seemed like a pretty good spot on the river to turn this hand into a bluff and pick up a nice pot.